So this morning I watched Leave the World Behind, which it was a good film and it had a good storyline and everything about it was good except for the main character of the female. You know that it didn't make any sense. They've booked out a weekend in this very expensive home. The phones all go down and there seems to be a blackout of electricity, but they seem to still have electricity. But yeah, just all the satellites and signals go down, and the owners of the house come to the house saying that they would like to stay the night because they've just got a bad feeling about something that's going on in town, and they're a bit you'd expect if you've just spent like thousands of pounds to stay in a really expensive holiday home for a weekend, you would be a bit like, we're spending lots of money on this, and then they give a refund, or give them £1,000 as a sort of here's a refund for the money that you spent. But yeah, it didn't make any sense because she was very, very cold and very, very narcissistic. She's saying that she hates people, and yet she's acting in a way that would make people want to hate her. And I just thought it was very cold and very unrealistic. And I swear, if this film would have been done 10, 20 years ago, the characters would have been nice. But the films that are coming out recently, the characters in these films just seem so horrible. I think what it is 10, 20 years ago, everyone was trying to create a better world. All the film and film industry was trying to create a better world, make out that the world is a much better, happier place. Like Hollywood, you can see lots of Hollywood films where everyone looks happy and the place looks amazing, and then you actually go to Hollywood and just be like, what the hell? This is not what I was expecting. I was expecting it to be a lot better than, because of all the films that deceive you into thinking it's a lot better. But yeah, in the last, ever since COVID, I've noticed that the characters in films seem to be just so much darker, so much worse. Yeah, it was unpleasant to watch. So it was kind of I'm glad that I could have watched it in the cinema, but I forgot. I think what might have been on, but I think I forgot the name of it again, so I didn't watch it. But I watched it here, and I got to skip forward the first few scenes that were very annoying. But I watched it from the main parts, and it didn't make any sense. The second you realise that all the roads are blocked, and that there's a high chance that your house you might not be able to get home. The second you realise that, you would have a completely change of attitude towards the owners of the house. You've booked out to stay there for a couple of days, but you are now aware that your home might be destroyed. You can't gain access to your bank accounts. The second I would have realised that, I would have been like, right, you have your deposit back. I've got a feeling that our stay might go over, extend over the time, and therefore, this is your house. You can stay. You can take the rooms that you want, and we'll take the basement. I think I would have first taken that approach, because I would have realized that something really bad is happening to the rest of the world, and therefore we need to get on with these people. Why? Because we are technically guests in that person's house, and if all the roads are blocked, and if the city looks, but if the city looks destroyed, like you can't get back there, you have to accept that you are now broke and you have nothing, and therefore, the whole attitude towards the owners should have completely changed and completely shifted. Instead, they were still acting like it was their home, even though it wasn't their home. So I didn't like that, and I thought it was very unrealistic. A lot of how they reacted in a lot of ways, and it was. And then to see how they go to the neighbour for help, and that neighbour had instantly turned on them and was willing to shoot them because it was like, as soon as the possibility of the government has failed, all laws about what right and wrong is just sort of went out the window, and it's a horrible view on life. But I do think that there's some truth to it. I feel like there are some people that only stick to laws because they don't want to go to prison for a very long time because of doing something wrong. And as soon as the potential of, as soon as you can kill someone and get away with it legally, I feel like there is a huge number of people in America that might just be like, right, let's just kill the people we don't like because we're not going to go to prison for it. It's horrible to think that a lot of these people exist, but I really do think that there's a lot of terrible people in the world, and I feel like it's being reflected in the films that are coming out. The films that seem to come out now, a lot of them don't have nice characters in. I like the Inside Out film. Most of the others are just really terrible, and it was a part 1 as well, so there's a part 2 to that, which I will watch, but I'm really hoping that that woman's going to completely change her attitude now, because I feel like part of her snobbiness came from her belief that she was richer and had, she was rich and she spent out a huge amount of money. I wouldn't have been able to afford to take that house out as a holiday home. But yeah, the second you realise your house and all your money is gone because you can't get access to your banks and stuff, that's when you realise that you need to humble yourself, and you didn't see that her humbling herself in any way. He's still rich because he's still got the mansion that he owns. But yeah, it was, people turn on each other very easily, and I would have said that this would have been unrealistic and people weren't like this, but I feel like this is more truthful than what I realised 10 years ago. I don't think I would have believed that people would have been like this, but now I'm seeing it I believe it. But anyway, I'm going through The Chosen, and still, as I'm watching another episode, and in this one, Jesus just talks to some rabbi about what his mission is and stuff. So I'll just go through it because I've got nothing else to do.
I asked the owner of this house for more lanterns.
This light is terrible.
Draw attention.
Yes, I imagined they would.
The human eye is drawn to light.
I don't understand why the light is... I don't understand why the light in this is so bad. I've gone to a dark place in the room hoping that it wouldn't... I don't think I'm going to be able to... That's even worse. Okay, that might be better. No.
There are many things we're drawn to without our thinking or our ability to explain why.
It's terrible, that is.
Thank you for agreeing to meet.
Thank you for trying to help Mary when you did.
It was no help.
You were meant to be there.
Me? So I could fail miserably. The eastern slums. Many wandering preachers have succeeded in gathering crowds with their rhetoric and fiery tone.
I've heard a few of them over the years myself.
So you know the type. But I have never heard anyone tell a paralytic to get up and walk, much less it actually happened.
Him healing people is just a lie. That didn't actually happen, but I'm trying to get to the point of
What
this.
is your conclusion?
I believe you are not acting alone. No one can do these signs you do without having God in him. Only someone who has come from God.
And how is that believed?
But he never did any of these. This is just a fictional character. He never did any of
Going
this.
over in the synagogue. Which is why we are here at this hour. What else?
What have you come here to show us?
A kingdom.
That is what our rulers are worried about.
No, not that kind.
Then what?
The sort of kingdom that a person cannot see unless he is born again.
Born again?
Yes.
So this again is just promotion of some sort of spiritual, a different world. So basically, when you die, there'll be a kingdom afterwards. So this is just him promoting. So if I was to take scenes like this, I don't know how I'd do it, but you'd show a clip of him saying stuff, and then I would give my interpretation. The Antichrist is supposed to come with lies and deception. So what he's done with convincing people that he's managed to heal leopards and lepers, not leopards, people with illnesses. He's convinced people a lie, and then he's preaching a lie. He's preaching about how to get into another world you have to be born again. Now there is some truth to it. I would say that the truth is that in his world 2,000 years ago the world was a horrible shitty place. So for you to get into a kingdom, it's actually talking about the kingdom on earth right now. So I'm from Birmingham now, London before. there's also New York and California. You know, think about how it is now. This is the kingdom that he was preaching about, and the only way to get here would be to die and be reincarnated. But yeah, it's he's missing out a lot of parts, because for you to get to here, you have to you have to go through many lives, and that would eventually bring you into this world.
You mean a new creature? A conversion from Gentile to Jewish?
No, that's not what I'm talking about.
Then what is born again? I hope you don't mean return to the womb, because that would be a problem for me. My mother, may she rest in peace, is dead.
Truly, I say to you, unless one is born of water and the Spirit, he cannot enter the kingdom of God. That which is born of the flesh is flesh, and that which is born of the Spirit is spirit. That
I think he's saying that you have to be special, basically, and I don't believe this. Oh my gosh, my face looks so awful. Why does it look so red? It's terrible in this light. It's all to do with lighting, and the lighting right now it looks awful. But yeah, so he's talking about to die. Your soul is like your spirit. A soul and a spirit are basically parts of you that are kind of attached together and form who you are. And to get into the kingdom, you just need to die, and your soul needs to be reborn into a new body. But of course, it might not just happen once. I think he was lucky. AJ Miller died 2,000 years ago, and I don't believe he's had any other life since then. So he's got quite lucky, and he didn't have to live lots of lives. But because he's not lived a huge amount of lives, he probably doesn't also have that much truth or depth to his soul. I feel like he's he is who he is, but he doesn't have as much character as some people. How you gain character is having loads of different lives, building up loads of different skills. The singers and celebrities have a lot of talent because they've had loads of different lives where they've built up different. So they've been born again, not just once, but many times, 10 times to be specific.
part of you, that is what must be reborn to new life.
How can these things be?
It's called reincarnation. It's not actually that much special, and Hindus believe in it too. So he's basically preaching reincarnation, but he's not calling it reincarnation. He's calling it chosen. You have to be like chosen by God, or specifically chosen. You have to choose God, and God will choose you. But technically, reincarnation is what it should be.
A teacher of Israel, and yet you do not understand these things.
I'm trying, Rabbi.
I know. Do you hear this?
What?
Listen. What do you hear?
The wind?
How do you know it's the wind?
'Cause I can feel it. I hear it sound.
Do you know where it comes from?
No.
Do you know where it's going?
No.
That's what it is to be born again of the Spirit. The Spirit may work in a way that is a mystery to you. And while you cannot see the Spirit, you can recognize his effect.
I don't think you can recognize the Spirit's effect, because most people have no clue what the Spirit is, who it is. The Spirit, every person has a spirit. Jesus is not preaching that. He's just preaching about the one Spirit, which is my spirit. And he's saying that you can't know its effect unless it does something and you see it around. But I think if you don't know me, then you won't know what my spirit is doing. So I don't agree with his teachings, because why does my face look fucking red? That's horrible. But yeah, if you don't know the Spirit, if you don't know me, look better. If you don't know me, then you can't work out like what I'm doing. And yeah, he's not teaching truth.
Mind is consumed with thoughts of what a stir these words would cause among the teachers of the law.
Yes. I do not expect otherwise. I speak of what I know and have seen, and it It has not been received by the religious
It
leaders.
is hard to receive.
So if I have told you of earthly things, and you do not believe, how can I tell you heavenly things?
I'm not really sure why they wouldn't believe. I mean, if they're all writing Torah and books like this, then surely they could just say that all these were inspired by the Spirit. So he's not really he's not teaching anything different to what they already believe. I think the only thing that he's really making a difference is that he's saying that he's the one that has the Spirit inside of him. And okay, he does have a Spirit inside of him, so does everyone. But yeah, he represents kind of like the average person. So everyone has their own spirit, and everyone needs to try and connect with the higher spirit, which is very complicated, and you won't fully know what the higher spirit is doing until you know the one who kind of owns or shapes that spirit, which is me.
I believe your words. I just fear you may not have a chance to speak many more of them before you are silenced.
I have come to do more than speak words, Nicodemus.
More miracles.
Yes, but even more than that. Do you remember when the children of Israel complained against God and against Moses in the wilderness of Paran?
Yes. They wanted to return to Egypt, and they cursed the manna that God sent them.
And then?
They were bitten by serpents, and they were dying.
But
God made a way for them to be healed.
Moses lifted the bronze serpent in the desert, and people only needed to look at it.
This just brings up a question that I want to talk about. I don't think I'll show anything more of the video because the video footage is too shit in quality, and no one's helping me make these better, so I'm just going to be like, whatever, I don't care. But I just want to say that Moses was not my person. He was not of God. He did not know about me. He did not follow the truth. I think what Moses represents is just a bunch of people who kind of follow the Antichrist, and Jesus is just another Antichrist. So he supports Moses because Moses was another liar like him, someone who uses false deceptions and lies to try and build up a group of followers. I mean, technically the people followed Moses across the sea using a miracle that never happened, and the only point of that story was actually to get people to believe in this guy, and in his false laws and his false teachings. You know, if you think that the laws of Moses are the laws of God, then it just shows that you don't know God. If you think that the laws of Moses are the only laws that God would want you to follow, then you don't know God. You know, the things that I find most important are equality between the sexes. So that is believing that a male soul and a female soul are exactly the same, but some people choose to be more masculine, some souls choose to be more feminine, and there might be a DNA difference to give different hormones, but spiritually, males and females are the same. And Moses did not preach that, neither does anyone in Islam, and the other laws I would preach, you know, same about race. Anyone could be black or white in their next life, regardless to what they are now, and you shouldn't have sex with 15-year-olds or under, and you shouldn't have sex with kids, you shouldn't marry kids, you shouldn't abuse animals or take advantage of the situation that you might have and use others. I mean, I know some slavery might actually be useful if a person is bad and needs to kind of be forced to do things because they're going to just be causing trouble. If people are if people are stealing stuff and they can't pay the debts of what the damage that they've caused, you know, I think putting them in prison and forcing them to work so that they can pay off the damages, I think that's a very rational and logical way. I said yesterday that eye for an eye, I agree with eye for an eye, but technically I don't. Okay, eye for an eye is where if someone loses an eye, you literally go and poke their eye out. No, I don't actually agree with that. So I don't agree with that term, but I agree that if someone does some injustice, you need to think about how much damage they have caused, and actually make them suffer to that extent. You know, if someone breaks someone's shop window because they want to steal stuff, you know, make them pay for the damages, send them to jail, you have to go to this workhouse and you have to work this many hours until you've paid off your debt, because this is the amount of damage that you caused, this is what you were expecting the insurance companies to pay. And why should the insurance companies pay for your mistake? You know, I think punishing people who do things like this is a very good thing, because people pay for the insurance companies, and huge amounts of money goes to the insurance companies, and I think having a different system where you make criminals pay for the damage that they've caused, so insurance can pay out, and then you make the criminals pay for the damage that they've caused, to the extent of what the damage that they caused. The more damage they cause you, the more you make them pay, and then you put it into some sort of government funding that helps reduce the cost of people's insurance cost. You know, everyone has to pay an insurance, and if the government can take criminals and make criminals pay for what they're causing, then the insurance that people would pay, the average people would pay to keep their things, their shops or whatever insured, you know, it would be less, because this government funding money can actually help towards lowering the costs of the average insurance. You know, I think there should be some sort of system like that, and people should be made to pay for damages and stuff. And going back to the Moses thing, you know, Moses represents kind of a false Jesus. He represents a real Jesus. He represents another Jesus, and he took his people out into slavery, out into the desert to starve, to die, to suffer, burnt down trees, burnt down. Did all sorts of nonsense. He was just like Jesus, but worse. Jesus, if I insult Jesus, I feel like it's just minimal stuff that he's saying that I don't agree with. But if I was to look at Moses on an equally judgmental sight, I would be saying far worse. You know, I watched that Young Turks guy go on about how Israel that Muslims are, you know, are equally as capable of creating a government and creating this and creating, and they should have equal rights and stuff like this. And I do agree with equal rights, but I'm also looking at the religion that they worship. You know, to believe that Jesus was a good guy, okay, it's debatable. I don't agree with any of his teachings, but I wouldn't say he's a monster either. But if I look at what Moses does, you know, he's a monster. And if you're someone who thinks that he's a good guy, a man of God, and if you're someone who would follow him into the desert, then I feel like the actual story of Moses is to lead bad people into the desert, and okay, some die, but he saves them not because he's helping them, but rather because he's making them suffer more. The more they live in the desert, the more hungry they get, the more, you know, you could say, oh, they're all dying of starvation and stuff, and then snakes come and start poisoning and killing people, and Moses saves them by having this magic stick that doesn't work, but you know, having a magic stick and saving some of the people. You know, you could say that Moses is doing a good thing, but I wouldn't say he is. If they're destined to just live in the desert and have a horrible, shitty life where they're starving and living in poverty and not having proper beds or facilities, you know, he's not causing them to do anything good. He's actually just making them suffer. He's making them suffer more and more and more. So Moses should not be seen as the good guy. He should be seen as the monster that wants people to follow him into the desert, trap them, imprison them into some, you know, slavery where they're forced to make war and cause problems and starve and go through all sorts of atrocities. And but him saving them is actually just him forcing them to suffer even more. You know, I feel that way about some animals. You know, I saw this really horrible video where someone had taken off all the cat's paws, and I can't understand who would do that. So apparently paws, you know, the ends of cats don't grow back. If you chop them off, they don't grow back. So that kitty is going to have to spend its whole life with not being able to walk, because it's got no hands or feet. And therefore it's going to be walking on the bone, and they had this mattress out, and so the kitten can just walk around on the mattress. But that is so cruel. To force that kitty to live is so cruel. If that kitty is going to have to spend its whole life not being able to walk, you saving it, you helping it is not helping it. You're forcing it to suffer more. Because every moment that it tries to walk on hard floor, it's going to feel the bones through its in it, and to think that you're helping it when really you're just causing it to suffer. That cat needs to be put down, because that's what's best for it. And humans can't see it this way because they're so spiritually blind that they can't see death as being just a leap from one life to another. They see it as a permanent ending, and they would say it's better to live a life full of suffering than to die, and that's not the truth. And Moses teaches an inverted version. He teaches that it's better to live a life in the desert where you're starving and hungry and getting eaten by snakes, only to be saved by him and then have to kind of like worship at his feet because he saved you. But really he's not. He's doing what those doctors were doing to try and help that cat. This cat is going to suffer every day for the rest of its life, and you're going to force it to just continue suffering because you think death is wrong, and it's not wrong. Death is part of the matrix. Death is just one more step into how to fix a problem if you can't be fixed. I know if a human lost all their hands and feet, you can get aesthetics and stuff, but it's a cat, you probably wouldn't, because it's they don't have the money. Humans can make money, and they can help their own renovation of if problems arise, they can pay for their own medication. But if in America, medication and healthcare is so expensive. In elderly homes as well. If someone was to die slowly in America, it can be very, very expensive, and I feel very sorry for those people. If you're getting dementia, if you can't remember your life, if you can't have a good life, I think death is 100% should be an option. You should allow assisted suicide if someone can't live on their own, and if they need to be in a home, but if they're not able to enjoy their life because of being elderly or something, to think that you would force them to just continue living on and paying for something that they can't afford. Or maybe the partner can look after themselves, but they have to spend all their money on healthcare for the partner that's lost their mind and is in a to think that you allow this. I think it's just allowing more and more suffering. And I wanted to make this video not because I really wanted to talk about that scene. It was more just him promoting Moses as being the good guy, and I really don't. I think there's a lot that I noticed. There is a Moses show that I will watch too, but yeah, I know I need to be a bit more respectful to Moses, because Moses is accepted as kind of like the one to worship if you're Islamic, but yeah, I think in reality I have so many more negative things to say about Moses. And that young Turk guy, he was saying how Islamic people are equal, just as much right, just as capable, just as this, just as that, and I'm thinking they worship Moses, a guy who led people out into the streets, who had none of those miracles were true. It's all just myths, it's all just lies, and he didn't do his people any good. The people that followed him into the desert, they all died eventually, but they didn't just die. They went through 40 years of suffering before they died. I mean, if you think that that's a good guy, that's someone that's going to make someone suffer for 40 years, at least when they were in Egypt, in Egypt, they had homes and beds, and they could have worked on skills and working together. That it kind of reminded me of that Left Behind film, where the people just weren't working together. The world was coming to an end, or something was going on, there was some sort of war, and people were just turning against themselves rather than working together and thinking, let's find a solution to work together. And it's horrible to see this, but this is just what people are like. They can't tell what's good and what's bad.